Welcome to Bed Crime Stories podcast. I'm your host, T, and if true crime is your jam and like me, you enjoy delving into unsolved cases, trying to figure out who done it, please consider subscribing. Also, if you enjoy my videos, please hit that like button. Hi all, there has been a huge happening in the Gabby Petito case today. The Laundrie family attorney, Stephen Bertolino, has released Brian Laundrie's notebook, the one that was apparently found in a waterproof bag near his body. In the notebook, Brian confesses to killing Gabby. Here is how the confession reads. I ended her life. I thought it was merciful, that it is what she wanted. But I see now all the mistakes I made. I panicked. I was in shock. But from the moment I decided to take her pain away, I knew I couldn't go on without her. End quote. Now, in my opinion, this is Brian Laundrie finding a reason other than his own fists and hands to explain away Gabby's death. I don't believe a word of this. How convenient that your girlfriend has an accident and that is why she dies. He makes no mention of trying to call an ambulance out. Instead, it's all about him trying to carry her to the car heroically and panicking. Yada, yada, yada. This sounds like a man who's blaming his deceased girlfriend, his victim, for her own death. One word, appalling. Brian Laundrie, you are a POS, as they say. Sorry, not sorry. There's also a note to Gabby. Before I read this, I want to say that there are some words that I could not decipher. So when I get to those, I'm just going to say unknown word. All right? So here's the note that he wrote to Gabby. Gabby, I wish I was right at your side. I wish I could be talking to you right now. I'd be going through every memory we made, getting even more exotic for the future. But we've lost our future. I can't live without you. I've lost every day we could have spent together. Every holiday I'll never get to play with unknown words again. Never go hiking with T. I love you more than anything. I can't bear to look at our photos, to recall great times, because it is why I cannot go on. When I close my eyes, I will think of laughing on the roof of the van, falling asleep to the sight of a meteor shower at the Crystal Geyser. I will always love you. End quote. Now the note goes on, so let's get started. If you were reading Gab's journal, looking at photos from our life together, flipping through old cards, you wouldn't want to live a day without her. Knowing that every day you'll wake up without her, you wouldn't want to wake up. I'm sorry to everyone this will affect. Gabby was the love of my life, but I know, unknown word, by many. I'm so very sorry to her family because I love them. I consider her younger siblings my best of friends. I'm sorry to my family. This is a shock to them as well as terrible grief. They loved as much, if not more than me, a new daughter to my mother, an aunt to my nephews. Please do not make this harder for them. This occurred as an unexpected tragedy. Rushing back to our car, trying to cross the stream of unknown word, before it got too dark to see, too cold. I heard a splash and a scream. I could hardly see. I couldn't find her for a moment, shouted her name. I found her breathing heavily, gasping. She was freezing cold and had just won from the blazing hot national parks in Utah. I'm not sure what that says, sorry. The temperature had dropped to freezing and she was soaking wet. I carried her as far as I could down the stream toward the car, stumbling, exhausted, in shock, when my shoes buckled and I knew I couldn't safely carry her. I started a fire and spooned her as close to the heat. She was so thin, had already been freezing too long. I couldn't at the same time realize that I should have started a fire first, but I wanted her out of the cold, back to the car from where I started the fire. I had no idea how far the car might be, only knew it was across the creek. When I pulled Gabby out of the water, she couldn't tell me what hurt. She had a small bump on her forehead that eventually got larger. Her feet hurt, her wrist hurt, but she was freezing, shaking violently. While carrying her, she continually made sounds of pain. Laying next to her, she said little, lapsing between violent shakes, gasping in pain, begging for an end to her pain. She would fall asleep and I would shake her awake, fearing she shouldn't close her eyes if she had a concussion. She would wake in pain, start her whole painful cycle again, while furious that I was the one waking her. She wouldn't let me try to cross the creek, thought like me that the fire would go out and in her sleep she'd freeze. I don't know the extent of Gabby's injuries, only that she was in extreme pain. I ended her life. I thought it was merciful, that it is what she wanted, but I see now all the mistakes I made. I panicked. I was in shock. But from the moment I decided, took away her pain, I knew I couldn't go on without her. I rushed home to spend my time I had left with my family. I wanted to drive north and let James or TJ kill me, but I wouldn't want them to spend time in jail over my mistake, even though I'm sure they would have liked to. I'm ending my life not because of fear of punishment, but rather because I can't stand to live another day without her. I've lost our whole future together, every moment we could have cherished. I'm sorry for everyone's loss. Please do not make life harder for my family. They lost a son and a daughter, the most wonderful girl in the world. Gabby, I'm sorry. I've killed myself by this creek in hopes that animals may tear me apart, that it may make some of her family happy. Please pick up all my things. Gabby hated people who litter." End quote. I have to say I find this whole thing pretty disgusting because I don't believe a word of it. I don't believe that Gabby had an accident and that's why she died. If she had a bump on her forehead, it's probably because he took those fists and punched her there. I'm sorry, that's just how I see this. I mean, anybody in their right mind would have tried to call an ambulance, would have run back as fast as they could to the van to make contact with the outside world. I'm not buying this. And it also makes me feel like he's trying to blame her, and he was saying that she was furious when he would wake her up, and he's saying that maybe this will make her family happy. Her family's not happy. They lost her. You did her in. They're not going to be happy that you shot yourself. They don't have any answers now, and you offer up this letter, which to me sort of makes it appear that you didn't do anything wrong, that you're off the hook for the whole thing, and that you're not killing yourself because you're afraid of punishment, but simply because you don't want to live another day without her. I think you didn't want to live in prison, and I think that you took the coward's way out, and not only that, that you're blaming everything that happened on her. She somehow fell in the creek, and that's why she was injured, and that's why maybe she wasn't dressed appropriately, and she was freezing, and it's not your fault, right? Sorry. This is very disturbing, and I don't think that this has the answers, not the true answers, just my feelings. Until the next time on Bed Crime Stories.